Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Lindsay, the pharmacist here, Wellness PharmD Consulting, and I am joined again by a very special guest I love dearly, my sister, Allison Phillips. Dr. Allison Phillips is a physical therapist. She is in outpatient physical therapy. She is here today to talk about the benefits on the brain of exercise. So we're all going to learn from her. Hi, sister.
Hello, how are you?
Good. It's a good day.
It's a good day. Looks like a good day. It's a good day. I'm happy.
It's a good day.
Yeah. So my sister and I talk a lot about health and the goods and bads of all the things you can read about as far as health goes. But I think it can be pretty universally accepted that exercise is good for you.
Yes.
Exercise is good for you, right? No matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, I think hopefully we can base our talk on the fact that we all know that exercise is good.
Definitely.
And exercise is good for like a lot of different things. It's good for muscles, it's good for joints, it's good for bones, mental health, stress management,
gut health,
weight management, gut health, yeah,
cardiovascular
right?
disease, arthritis, joint function. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that exercise is also really good for your brain. And so we're going to talk about it. Why is exercise good for your brain? What does it do? And hopefully by learning the why behind exercise in the brain, you will adhere a little bit more to maybe exercising or start a new routine. I don't just think that. There's a lot of research studies that say if you know the why behind what you're doing, you'll be more likely to do it. So I guess why so you comply.
Comply. Yep. Why will comply.
Making things up. Woo. Okay. All right. So what specifically does exercise do for your brain? Lots of really good things. It can improve your memory and it can improve your thinking skills. They did a bunch of studies on humans who exercise and found that they scored higher on executive function tests, meaning critical thinking and like problem solving tests, and also memory tests. And I want to just briefly say I focused more when I was putting this talk together on human studies than animal studies, because a lot is done on animals and we're not rats. So
we're a little more evolved. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Different than rats. Yeah, it's easier to study animals. But so all of these are human-based studies that are also supported by rat-based studies, if I can flip that paradigm a little bit. A little wheel. Yeah. So it can also improve learning. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the term neuroplasticity, and that is just a super fancy way for saying that our brain can learn new things at any time and at any age. And exercise can help with improving your neuroplasticity. And then it also can slow aging process of your brain, which is super cool because that is what usually leads to all of the big scary diagnoses like dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and MS, and these things that I see in, not MS necessarily, but these things that I see in the older population. Exercise can slow the decline of the age of your brain, of your aging brain.
So we can't change our genetics, right? But we can use all the tools out there to do our best for our body. And this is how we would do our best for our brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a huge component and barrier to why people don't change their behaviors or change their lifestyles is because they don't think they have control over anything. So maybe you've had a stroke and you're in a wheelchair and you can't walk anymore. And I can't control the fact that you've had a stroke, or I can't control the fact that you have maybe predisposed obesity in your family. But what I can control for me and what you can control is exercise. 100%. Like, how cool that you found something that you can control. I think that's really neat.
And has all the benefits that you're talking about. But yet for the brain, so they say the benefits are 1 billion. For the brain, there's like 1 million. So
many. It's crazy. We're just we'd like to think we know a ton about the brain, and we're really just scratching the surface, but we're learning. We're learning more things. So then I think the next question is, here's what it does. Here's what exercise does for your brain. But I think it's really fine to turn on the TV and have someone say, exercise improves your memory. And you're like, cool. And then nothing else happens. So right. I don't know about, I mean, I know you and I enjoyed learning the how behind things, the why behind things. So I want to talk about a little bit about how exercise actually improves your memory and how exercise actually improves your neuroplasticity and your ability to learn.
Okay, I'm ready.
She's ready. She's excited. So there's a bunch of different chemicals that are called growth factors, specifically neurotropic growth factors. And they have been identified pretty recently as really important for this component of exercise, improving your brain health. And the one I'm going to focus on today is called BDNF, and it is brain-derived neurotropic factor. Don't have to remember the name of it, but this was the chemical. The important thing is that they could identify this chemical and they could measure this chemical without having to cut your brain open.
Right. Operate.
Operate, right? No, I would love to not have my brain cut open.
Not today.
Not today. So this chemical lives mostly in an area of your brain called the hippocampus, which is where your memories and some thinking processes are stored. But it's also been found in a place called the cortex. And different parts of your brain have cortex, but that involves a lot of your executive function and thinking skills. So memory and thinking. Two of the ways that we can improve, two of the ways that have been shown to improve with exercise. And so what it does is, if you have all this happy BDNF chemical, is it can help your neurons talk to other neurons. And that's essentially how we move. If I say, I want to high five my sister through the screen, which
got it. We're doing it now.
We're doing it. My brain had to say to one neuron, lift your arm and put it towards the screen. And bunch of other neurons had to be talked to in a stream and a chain of neurons for that to occur. And that's called neurotransmission. And what BDNF does is that it increases the speed and the frequency at which those neurons are firing and talking to each other. So you have increased neurotransmission. Lindsay.
So, okay, got a question. If I think about this when it comes to certain exercises, this is why it helps to do a new exercise slowly at first before you go right into like hot sauce burpees where you're doing kickbacks and lunge, jumping and get them. So if you do a few practice reps, you're starting to fire those neurons and then they'll fire faster in that pattern. And then over time, exercises increase my BDNF, but so is my muscle memory. So it's like hand in hand with muscle memory too.
Yeah, and you're touching on the neuroplasticity piece as well, which is the learning component too. Absolutely. Cool. You cannot do something perfectly the first time. You have to learn and you have to understand what's happening, right. And then you have to practice it. And then you have
we
to
didn't come out the gates writing our names, right? We had
right.
Learn.
Yeah. Yes. So BDNF essentially ups the ante on your learning game by helping with these neurons to fire and talk to each other more efficiently, faster.
Cool. So I'm going to exercise and increase my happy BDNF.
BDNF, good. But there's also other stuff, and these aren't exclusive to each other. They of right. course all intermingle, but we're sparsing them out just for learning capability. Exercise is also neuroprotective, meaning it can protect the existing neurons that are in your brain, which we lose as we age. Part of the normal aging process is that you lose neurons. That's just what happens.
Are you born with I have a question, another question. Mm-hmm. Are you born with a set amount of neurons? I cannot remember that from school. And if you don't know, it's okay.
Good question. No. So you peak your neuron building, golly, someone's going to get mad at me for saying the wrong age. I think for men, it's like 22, and for women, it's 26 or something. I think 20s. It's 20s, late teens, early 20s, is when your peak neuron building is. However, even though your neurons begin to die off at a faster rate that they're growing at that age, it doesn't mean that we can't continue to build new neurons. It's just not going to exceed the decline.
We're just slowing it down.
We're slowing it down. We're slowing it down. That's what exercise can do. Yep.
Cool. So neuroprotection, what does that look like? Like examples.
Without getting into a ton of like chemical cellular chemistry, if you think of a neuron like your fist, and you think of the skin outside of your fist as protecting, like, let's say this pen from penetrating it. And when you exercise, you essentially build up that protective barrier of your neuron, and it's harder for it to penetrate. So the neurons themselves become like sheathed,
protected,
and more protected. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also sort of started talking about the third component, which is neuroregenerative. So it can regenerate and grow new neurons, which is what slows that aging process. Exercise, you can just grow new neurons. And the interesting thing about this is that they've studied healthy individuals, and you can regenerate your neurons in a healthy individual, and people who have chronic diseases, think like heart failure or stroke or Parkinson's, and both populations, and age, just normal aging, which is kind of a disease in itself, right? All across the spectrum, exercise you can still build new neurons no matter what in the world has happened to you or your brain. It's good for everybody.
Now take that in for a second. Like, no matter what has happened to you, you can get your happy BDNF, because I'm going to remember that it's happy. You can neuroprotect and neuroregenerate.
Yeah.
And neuroplasticize, if that's a word.
And neuroplasticize. I think it should be.
Well, we just put it in our dictionary.
Be a superhero. I'm Mr. Neuroplasticize.
Yes. NP next Halloween.
All right.
Okay.
Love it. Okay, so a couple other things it does. Exercise for your brain also supports the cerebrovasculature system. Cerebro for brain, vasculature for blood vessels. So it essentially makes the blood vessels that are in your brain healthier. Lots of different ways: oxygen, growth, just in general, getting them to circulate more blood. All good, super good. And then this really neat one, it can sustain the integrity of your blood-brain barrier. So you have this protective barrier, kind of like our neurons, but think much, much bigger. You have this protective barrier that goes around your brain, and it helps keep all the good stuff in and all the bad stuff out. So if you catch a virus or you have some sort of bacterial infection, it cannot get into your brain. Side note,
prime
they
example.
think that it can with like COVID, but
syphilis. Prime example, syphilis. If treated appropriately, will not get into the brain.
Right. But if not, you have like the biggest thing with discovering the existence of syphilis, and I think the treatment of syphilis, you would know this, was that they were like, why are these people acting so incredibly crazy? What is happening? Nothing's wrong with them. What's going on? So
it took the third step of syphilis, the brain dysfunction and deterioration, in order for them to trace it back. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but beefs up our blood-brain barrier.
Beefs up the blood-brain barrier. It's good. You want a good blood-brain barrier. Okay, and then lastly, we'll talk about how it actually helps to clear trashy proteins from your brain. And I mean, we're constantly making trash from our cells and from our bodies, and usually our bodies are really good at just taking out the trash, clearing it out. Oh, we muted. I think you got muted. That's okay.
I don't think I muted you. I'm muting Pip because she's barking.
Oh,
so it's a garbage disposal.
Yeah, it's like a garbage disposal. So exercise can actually, with the promotion of BDNF and with all that good neuroprotection, it can actually clear out these proteins that start to build up. And if the proteins build up too much on top of each other, they start to form plaques, which is the basis for most of your dementias. Your Alzheimer's dementias, your Parkinson's, are like, plaques are bad. And exercise can help prevent those from forming. And actually, they did a bunch of studies on people who were already diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and they found a reversal in some of their cognitive impairments with exercise.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah,
Neuroregeneration,
it's really cool.
slowing them down,
That's so
improving.
cool. Yeah.
Wow,
Neat.
sister. Brain benefits of exercise. Okay, so what are the exercises I need to do to make sure, because we have Alzheimer's in our family, right? We have dementia at least on one of the sides, but we know of, maybe the other. So how are the Phillips sisters going to slow this down?
Yes, that's a really awesome question. And I think a lot of people might look at us specifically and see that we are pretty darn healthy. We're very fit. We exercise often. And they might start to think, okay, so in order for me to get these benefits, these amazing brain benefits that we just spent the last, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes talking about, I must have to exercise like 7 days a week. And it has to be super hard. It has to be hours and hours a day, because only really, really fit people get these benefits. And we've already talked about that is complete BS. Most of the initial studies done on exercise were done on walking, because everyone could walk. So
right.
Like, cool, we'll just make people do a bunch more walking. And so they knew back in the early 90s to early 2000s that walking was really good, and walking was showing some nice benefits. And since then, we've branched out to studying actual exercise programs and different types of exercise beyond just walking and running, to show that they can also be benefit.
Figure out, everybody can walk, so that's great. We want to walk, but is there a way to even make it better? And which ways is it swimming? Is it golfing? Is it lifting? Is it jumping? Is it running? Is it okay?
Right. Okay, so that's our caveat to all this. Intense exercise is good, but moderate exercise is also really good. And I want to touch on the fact that the American Heart Association, or the American Academy of Muscle Conditioning,
probably both.
Oh no, I'm getting my academies mixed up. Okay, it doesn't matter. The standard recommendations for exercise are 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise, or 75 minutes a week of vigorous exercise. We can, at a later date or even now, go into the differences between moderate and vigorous, but just know that that's the recommendation from all the happy and good societies out there that I'm not going to remember exactly who said it first.
Okay.
So you go ahead.
You can be more efficient with your time if you need to be. It just has to be at a higher intensity.
Right. And again, let's remember that still anything is better than nothing. So there's your recommendations, but yeah, you're gonna get something out of it, even if you don't reach those minute marks a week. Mm-hmm. Types of exercise that are most beneficial are actually finding to be the short duration, but varying intensity and varying task types of exercise. So I want you to think running versus like badminton was a study that I was reading about, where they studied the BDNF of people who went for 30 minutes running, and then people who played badminton for 30 minutes. And if anyone doesn't know what badminton is, it's that game that with that hilarious short little tiny volleyball net and paddle and that wiffle ball looking thing with the feathers. It's got a funny name.
And it just goes back and forth and back and forth.
Right. Back and forth. But you're not like basketball sprinting, right? But you're still going back and forth. And they found that while both running and badminton increased your BDNF levels, badminton increased them way more than running did.
Fascinating.
So that shows us that those types of exercises where you're switching between tasks and you're moving different body parts and going after different things is better than that just doing the same thing.
One steady gait over and over and over again.
Right. Which leads us to something called high intensity interval training, which is another buzzy word. It's up there with neuroplasticity. It's been getting a lot of attention in the media and in literature for its pretty darn proven benefits for a lot of different things, but a lot of benefits for brain health. High intensity interval training is doing short bursts of a very high intense activity, think like sprinting, and then a duration of a resting period, like walking. So you could sprint and then walk, and sprint and then walk. Or you could do jumping jacks and then jog in place. And then you could do burpees, your crazy little hot sauce burpee.
I'll show you one someday. Or you could
Nervous about those.
do some step ups and then take a break and do a plank and then maybe go back to step ups.
And the more variety you build in, the better. But any sort of this interval training is good. I want to iterate that a lot of the reason this came to my initial awareness was a student at a different clinic, a neuro clinic, did a presentation on high intensity interval training for chronic stroke patients. So people who had had their stroke greater than 6 months at least, probably more like years ago. And they were like, well, we can't get them to exercise at a high enough intensity to increase their BDNF levels or to help with their heart disease and all these different things, but for our brain talk, BDNF levels. So what can we do? Well, they, put them on like a body weight supported treadmill system where they're hanging from a harness, and put them on a treadmill and just made them walk crazy fast for like a minute, and then let them slow down and recover because you've had a stroke. One side doesn't work great. You probably need some rest time. And then they did it again. And they didn't do it for a long, long time. It was like 10 minutes maximum. And they found that their BDNF levels increased. And then they also found that they could walk faster over the ground. And they were like, oh, maybe we aren't exercising these people hard enough, or maybe we're just not, maybe instead of just walking them on the treadmill for 10 minutes, we should actually pick up that pace a bit and really get some interval training in, which is HIIT training. That's high intensity interval training.
It is.
And they found benefits, and it worked.
It's also fast. I've been on the treadmill and the suspended harness because of my broken foot. And I love that thing. I loved having the weight taken off me, but that is beside the point. I think that, people HIIT class doesn't have to be an actual class. It can just be you setting a timer that dings, or, looking at your watch and going 20 seconds of whatever, or 10 seconds, whatever you can do, and then a break. And I think you touch on this consistently, but there are all shapes, sizes, and people. I mean, strokes years ago, we're talking, when you say they're moving faster on land after that, they might still be slow, but the fact that they're faster than they were, it's incredible. They've regenerated, and then it didn't take long for them to see improvement. So then they're going to see faster gains, bigger gains sooner. And imagine how much this is going to affect people who are just now starting to have strokes. I mean, their lives are going to immensely improve faster.
Yeah, it's the actual discovery of this chemical and measuring it in different populations was the game changer, I think. And they found that in any population, that if you do a bout of a high intensity interval training session, your BDNF levels go up for about 60 minutes, and then they'll return to their baseline. But if you do high intensity interval training for a period of at least 3 months, which is what they chose for this study, then your BDNF levels go up and they're sustained at that level. So the take home from that, and I think the take home from this whole talk, is that consistency with whatever exercise you choose is going to be key. You can't just do a 2-week program or a 4-week program or try something for 10 days and then give up on it. You have to be consistent with something in order to show those beneficial changes over time.
Moving has to be in your lifestyle. Maybe you try something every 2 weeks and it's new every 2 weeks, but it's different exercise every 2 weeks. You're biking, then you're walking, then you're doing some jogging, then you're hitting a dance class or whatever it may be. Moving makes you better. No matter
moving makes you better.
Who or yeah,
always.
That's why I purposefully go out on walks. I'm like, I need a walk. I've had too much, helps clear the head. You mentioned something, I think you said for 60 minutes. So we would just need to run to our tests before we take them, you know, if you're in school or whatever.
Right.
But if you consistently build exercise into your routine, you're going to take that test on a high level all the time. Your BDNF is going to help.
Yes. Yep. And then I don't know this specifically, but I think we can extrapolate out that if you've been consistent with your exercises and your BDNF levels are up here, and then let's say you do have a test, so you do a quick exercise session before your test, now you get extra little bump before it goes back down. And then you maybe, I don't know, maybe I've just helped you ace your program.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's like
You're welcome.
a video game where you get supercharged or something.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Boop, 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 boop.
Wow, sister. Did we miss anything? Did we cover all the things you wanted to talk about today?
I think
this
so.
has been,
Let me check my little cheat sheet.
I got exercise benefits, memory, critical thinking, problem solving, learning, neuroprotective, neuroregenerative, neuroplasticity. Doesn't matter what level of current state you are in, exercise will benefit you. High intensity is best, but even walking.
Yeah, good summary.
I took
we could
notes.
have just cut to you saying that, and then I could be like, exercise is good for you, and then like Wellness Wednesday done in 35 seconds.
We won't do that. Well, I just want to thank you again for showing up. You have the best Wellness Wednesdays, and I'm gonna post it, and hopefully we teach some people or get somebody going. And if they need exercise or need programs, we can help them find a person if we're not those people for them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're good jumping off points. We're good diving boards.
Yeah, for that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Tons of fun.
Yeah, so much fun. Bye, sister.